Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Hey, your Texans are the talk of the NFL. Welcome to our live Texans-Cards postgame show. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. Joining me, the regulars, contributor and Bullpen podcast co-host Thomas Chavarria, Houston radio legend Jayson Braddock, and hey, you live YouTube viewers, you know it. You're a part of this conversation, so hit us with questions and comments. And Tom, the sixth straight win for the Texans. They're one step closer to the playoffs. The Chiefs are officially out. It was quite a day to be a Houston Texans fan.
So I started this run with a brand new bottle of TX whiskey, and we've had one of these after every win. And I am just about out of TX whiskey. So they're going to keep this thing going. I'm going to have to buy another bottle. I'm just going to have to buy another bottle. And I'm okay with that. It's been a hell of a run. I mean, you know, there were guys that were talking mock drafts. There were guys that could not see a path for these Texans to get here. And the things weren't working. And now you look at this team and they're really firing on all cylinders.
I counted about a 3-5, Jayson. I mean, I'm as amazed as anybody the run that these guys have made. And, you know, it just seems like they're gaining momentum the closer we get to the playoffs, which is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, at 0-3, I still felt like they had a chance to battle back, but I'm right there with you, Robert. When they dropped to 3-5 and they lost that Denver game with CJ Stroud going out and likely to miss a couple games, we didn't know at that time it would be 3 games. But even if we had hindsight to say he's going to miss 3 games, I definitely would doubt it. So, yeah, it's been an amazing thing to watch them go 0-3, 3-5, and now rattle off so many games straight, 9-2 since starting 0-3. So it's been a fun season to watch and be a part of.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody that's out there, number one, we want to hear from you, but also we want to ask you, do you think the Texans should start being in conversations as far as Super Bowl? Or we're going to get to that as this one goes along. Do you like hearing Texans in Super Bowl? Do you believe in it? Do you really believe this could be a year they could make a run? Let us know in the comments. And look, lots to talk about in this game. Plenty of good stuff. Second play from scrimmage right off the bat. Stroud and Nico, 57-yard touchdown. One of the things that Mina Kimes mentioned this week, Jayson, is that in CJ's last 4 starts, he has more in-breakers as part of his throws. Basically, you know, you could define that in many different ways, but, you know, those plays more in the middle of the field than any starting quarterback. And on those, he leads the NFL in success rate, leads the NFL in EPA per dropback, 12 yards per attempt as well. Jayson, this looks like Stroud's strength right down the center of the field.
Oh, absolutely. And we saw that early and often in this game. So I think she hit the nail on the head. Her research on that really told the story of what we've seen throughout the season and what we would see going into this game.
The kickoff after the Nico touchdown, Jamal Hill, big time hit, forces the fumble. Ogunbowale recovers, and we don't talk much about Jamal Hill, but man, huge play right off the bat. Hasn't played in a month, I believe. And Tom, how about Casario's 2024 6th-round picks? Jamal Hill, Jawhar Jordan showed up big time. Nobody's laughing at Casario's little trades for late-round picks today. Nobody's laughing about that right now.
No, and really happy for Jamal Hill. You know, he's really struggled to get on the field. He's been injured. He's been banged up. So, you know, all you want to do is make a play. And you know, captain on the team, we questioned it. We talked about it. Why has this guy got a roster spot? Dare Ogunbowale making plays.
Absolutely. More Ogunbowale as the game goes along. And Tony says the Colts lost and Jags might lose to Denver next week. So, yeah, other good news as well. Grandpa Rivers made a go of it, almost pulled it out for the Colts, but couldn't do it. So Grandpa, you know, at least he made him competitive a little bit. It was a bad situation. So now let's go to after Texans go up 10-0, first down run by Marks that went nowhere. First down, Marks stuff. Second down, nobody open, so Stroud throws away. Third down, Ed Ingram, poor protection, causes a sack. Kind of typical red zone Texans after that turnover. What did you see on that sequence, Jayson, from the Texans?
No, I think you went right through it and laid it all out there on it. You mentioned one guy I want to spotlight on, Ed Ingram. There's been a lot of praise this year for Ed Ingram and what he's done, but most of that's been in run blocking. We've seen him throughout the year and here in back-to-back weeks really get exploited in that pass protection. Last week, here's Chris Jones just picking a fight with him, just taking him to task for most of the second half there whenever he lined up over him. And he was, I mean, at this point, I think we all realize they're picking their battles and they're choosing Ed Ingram over Titus Howard. Because last week, Chris Jones is mostly Ed Ingram. He would go and do Ariante Ursery out on the edge. He'd line up over some Jake Andrews, but he's not wanting that one-on-one battle with Titus Howard. Same thing this week. Calais Campbell, the ageless wonder, same thing. Put a beating on Ed Ingram on a couple different plays. Sometimes Stroud was able to get out of it. Sometimes it made the play fold.
Yeah, Ed Ingram, I don't know what it was, but the last couple of weeks, it's not just guys are getting by him. I mean, it looks like bad technique, Jayson. It's not some guy just beating him physically. It looks like he's whiffing. I mean, just totally missing on a guy, or the guy does basically one hand move and he's gone, and Ingram almost falls to the side like a domino.
Well, I think you've had a lot of people put out PFF grades on Ed Ingram and how highly he scored through PFF throughout the year this year. And I think a lot of times when you put that and you see something like a 85, 90, whatever the PFF grade is for him, then you start thinking like, wow, man, this is, high level starting quality guy. No, he's been really good in the running game, but throughout the year, and it's not just these last 2 weeks, you go back to the games where you're playing against Jeffrey Simmons. You go out anytime you're playing against one of those top defensive tackles, specifically your bigger talented defensive tackles that have a little agility to them. They've been able to exploit them all year long. So it's like this. You've got Ed Ingram in run game and Ed Ingram in the pass game, and so there's two different Jekyll and Hyde to it. And I think getting Chris Jones last week and then going back doing it with this game here, you got to see two weekly reviews of, hey, this guy can't stop elite level D tackles.
No question about it. A classic Texans 3 and out on the first Cards offensive shot. Man, the Texans came out of the gate strong. Can't say that loud enough. I mean, they were ready. We complained about them in the first and the third quarter. Me and Jayson have both complained about them, but that was not the case today. Stingley and Toa flew into the backfield for TFLs on two separate plays. The Texans made it happen early. Woody Marks, first down run. And even though Tom says Stroud, he doesn't want to run those QB sneaks, he gets a first down on a quarterback sneak. Then the Cards pick up the PI penalty on the Schultz throw. Woody Marks ends up scoring on a brilliant design, pretend fumble by Kaylee. What a genius move. But Tom, never mind. I've been told Stroud, he screwed it up. He says he screwed it up. Should have been in the shotgun instead of under center. He wasn't where he was supposed to be.
Human, I tweeted out during the play, it's better to be lucky than good, I guess, because, on another day against another team, that's a fumble and we're tearing it down and this can't be happening in week, what is this, 14, 15, whatever. 15. And today we're like, nope, everything's working. Ball gets exactly where it needs to. Hole opens up super wide. Woody Marks glides in easy.
Yeah, it's so wide open, Tom, to your point, that Woody Marks does what I used to always do in Madden. That anxiety would get me when I had like 1 yard to go to get the first down or to get in the end zone. And even though I didn't need to, I'm hitting the dive button. Woody Marks is just sitting there at the 1 yard line, diving into the end zone when there's nobody around, to where he lands like 5 yards in on the dude's back. So it's kind of hilarious there. I'm like, he must have had that anxiety. Like, let me just get in the end zone. Because like you said, Tom, maybe they do need to put that in the playbook, because that's the biggest hole we've seen in the running game on the goal line all season long.
And it was to Ed Ingram's side. So
yeah,
absolutely.
No, and he's better in the run game. There's no question about that. Ed Ingram, much better in the run game this year. The Texans scored 17 points 9 minutes into the game, which is more total points than they scored in 4 games this year.
Well, what's crazy about Yeah, what's crazy about that, Robert, is the last time they scored 17 points in the first quarter, it was the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. So I'm sure there's something symbolic there, but 9/11/11 was the last time they scored. The Texans, as a franchise, scored 17 points in the first quarter, and before that, they only did it one time prior, and I think it was in like November 2009. So this is only the third time in franchise history that the Texans have scored 17 points in the first quarter. And like you alluded to earlier, Robert, we've talked all this year about how they've struggled to score points in the first and third quarters. So that and the significance of how many they've scored and how often or lack thereof they've scored 17 theirs in the first quarter. It's kind of almost like a get-right game where you want to see the Texans fine-tune themselves specifically on the offensive side of the ball over the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, as you head into the Chargers and then the Colts and then into the playoffs.
Tony says, still better than Shaq Mason on Ed Ingram. Do you agree with that one?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Absolutely.
Let's keep rolling with the highlights here and how this one went. Cards put together a really good drive after that. Ends up in a 1-yard touchdown pass to McBride. We're going to talk more about him. With EJ Speed out this week, somebody named Damone Clark was in coverage. The only Damone I know, Jason, is from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You might get that reference. You know anything about Damone? And where was Christian Harris in this mix? Because he did play today.
Yeah, so Damone Clark's the guy they claimed from the Cowboys, a couple weeks back. That first week, I don't think he was ready to go, just getting into the house. So I said claim. It might have been someone that was cut and they signed. But Damone Clark was someone they picked up from the Dallas Cowboys. First couple years in the league, he played on defense. Last couple years, he's mostly been that special teamer. And I'll tell you this, on this play, well, there's two places I want to go with this. First, let me point out, Damone Clark was an absolute beast on special teams today. He was in on 4 special teams tackle from me just watching back the film. So if you're talking about 4 different tackles, it's like, man, there's that 31 again. There's that 31. Now, the play you're talking about is they're down there in goal line, and they're matching up against the heavy personnel for the Arizona Cardinals. So on first, second, and third down, they're matching that personnel. So what they did is they went with 6 defensive linemen: Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., Sheldon Rankins, Mario Edwards, the new guy, Naquan Jones was in there, and and Tommy Togiai. So you got those 6 D linemen. Well, now because you're going heavy personnel, you only got 1 defensive back. You've got Jalen Petrie back there. That's your only DB. The other 4 are linebackers, and they went with more physical tackling linebackers with your 2 starters and Aziz, also Henry To'oTo'o. But then, surprisingly, to your point, they brought in Damone Clark there and another special teamers who I saw in on 2 plays on special team tackles, Jake Hansen. So first, second down worked perfectly, but then when they go to pass on that 3rd and goal, now you got Damone Clark in coverage on Trey McBride, and then that's where it fell flat on its face.
No EJ Speed, if anybody missed it, he was out for this one. So a little bit different look at linebacker. First play, next drive, Stroud to Nico for 29 yards, negated when Blake Fisher didn't report. We're still seeing tons of tackle eligible, even with the return of Stover and Harrison Bryant. Why is that, guys? I'm just not understanding why we have Blake Fisher in there. He would get another big penalty late. I'm like, what is he doing that's good? It seems like he's always doing something to screw things up.
I think
Jason?
The idea is max protect. I think it's like, look, if I have to choose between a tight end blocking or this extra lineman blocking, advantage lineman. Now, D'Amico said after the game that he thought that he reported as eligible on that play. One thing I didn't hear not one time, and he was in the game all day, was you never heard the judge call out so-and-so reports as eligible. In every other game, I feel like you hear that. They announce it to the whole stadium. This dude didn't do it not once all day. So I don't know. I mean, it sucked. Nico ran a great route. CJ hit him perfectly. The ball's moving. It sucked. But I understand the philosophy behind it. I understand the intent. Okay, I'm gonna max protect for CJ. I'm gonna give him plenty of time. I'm only gonna send so many guys out into the route, and I'm gonna expect those guys to win, which is exactly what happened, minus the flag.
Yeah, the more seems like you put on this offense to do something different, the more they're going to find a way to screw it up. So I'm like, why do this? And Blake Fisher, my problem with Blake Fisher is how many times do we say, man, did you see that block Blake Fisher did? I mean, we just don't see that enough to make me want to put him in the game. And I mean, you finally got the 3 tight ends. You haven't had it all year to work with. And you've got guys that can block a little bit. You've got Cade Stover back. So what are we doing here? Why don't we have the flexibility of having that tight end instead of attack? That's just
a lot of times,
manager.
Robert, they do that. A lot of times you see Cade Stover in there, even one Blake Fisher's in there. So what Tom's saying is exactly what it is. Where you do bring in that max protect, you want that extra blocker in there. That's an offensive line body, even if he's not a quality talent as a tackle. More than likely he's better than your tight end block, especially Harrison, even coming back from IR. But you are seeing him on that field with Cade Stover. But to your point, Robert, I agree. I was an advocate for Blake Fisher when he was drafted because I saw signs on tape that he could blossom into something. But throughout this year, I just see a guy who's still too finesse. And even today that he's getting tossed off with blocks, he's been better in run blocking than in pass protection. But even in that, he's still not stout enough. He's not the nastiness isn't there to where he's getting, he's too finesse for it. And so at this point, if they decided to inch away from it and starting to go more towards 12 and 13 personnel, I would have no issue with it. But I still understand that outside of Stover, your other tight ends aren't quality blockers to the point where they'll give you even better blocking than even a Blake Fisher at tackle.
Yeah, Brandon says it's because our tight ends have been getting beat down too. Well, I mean, Cade Stover has been out for a long time. Same with Harrison Bryant. It's hard to say they've been terrible, but even if you say, okay, they're getting beat down too, well, maybe they could get through a darn drive without a penalty. I mean, that's all I'm asking for Blake Fisher. Like, do what you're supposed to do and not get a penalty. And that's my issue. And, they said, well, he thought he said something to the ref, whatever. I don't know. It just seems like always, if Blake thinks he's doing stuff right, they always call stuff against him. So I have to start siding with the officiating on this one. This is an official thing that I'm going to guess that they know what they're talking about. If he's the wrong guy every single week, he picks up a penalty every week like Laramie Tunsil, sometimes two, like he did this week. Texans still get points thanks to a first down completion to Hutch. Some nice Woody Marks runs. Ursery's holding penalty sort of stalls the drive, but Fairbairn drills one from 55. Looked like it had been good from maybe 65, as good a kick as I've seen in the history of Kaimi Fairbairn. So props to him. We're going to talk more about special teams in a bit, but after our Cards 3 and out, Stroud finds Stover and Schultz for first downs. Then CJ, another one of his gorgeous scramble throws, laser to Schultz, puts him in field goal range, followed by 19-yard drop off to Ogunbowale. So as Tom pointed out, good day for him. More good stuff. Got to give him his props when he does it. They can't punch it in, settle for 3 when CJ can't find anybody on second down. Misses Nico on a fade. Tom, what stood out for you on that drive? What I liked here is you're starting to see Stroud using the tight ends, the running backs, the short stuff, the stuff that I was getting frustrated with. He's using everybody right now and just getting rid of the ball.
You read my mind. Something they said on the broadcast was that, Nico was getting doubled a lot. So that's why you saw, wide open Dalton Schultz, wide open Cade Stover, the little rollouts where, all right, if I'm going to send these guys out into the pattern, the flats are going to be open. I thought it was a great job by CJ Stroud. And I know he doesn't, well, at least he's talked about him not wanting to, what is it? What's the famous phrase? 1,000 cuts or whatever. He doesn't want to do that. I feel like he wants explosives. He feels like he can go get explosives, but taking what the defense is giving him and checking down is making him so much more productive, and it's keeping them on schedule all the time. And it just looks better. That's the Tom Brady stuff you were talking about on the last show, where it's like, look, these are the things he has to do, and we're starting to see more and more of that, and that's why you got monster games from those guys. And for me personally, I was on FanDuel with Jaden Higgins thinking he was going to have a monster day, and the guy didn't see the football because he used his tight ends, he used his running backs, but we're not used to seeing.
Death by 1,000 cuts gets you 40 points today, so that's what you got to do. And Brandon points out that he hates the fade plays. I'm not a fan either, especially when it's your last shot. It's third down. It's just a low percentage play, that the fade to Nico, attempted fade in the end zone. Nico's great, but I just didn't like it. And, I thought Stroud maybe should have put some more air into the ball. He might have thrown it earlier, and just, with Nico's leaping ability and athletic ability, I would just let Nico out jump the other guy and see what happens there. Gives you a better chance. Before we move on, just want to remind everybody, if you're not watching live, still want to hear you in the YouTube comments. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube with notifications also, so you can get your updates on the live shows and all of our content that way. It's a great way to just kind of keep up with what's going on with us. And you also want to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. All right, back to the action. Cards last chance in the first half, but Danico Autry, a bull rush 4th down sack. Danico, a hell of a luxury, especially with some of these tackle injuries that we're going to get into, but him being able to play both inside and outside helps you a ton. And that gave the offense a final shot. They get in field goal range on a couple of completions to Schultz. Fairbairn's kick deflected. But Jayson, just the process, the first half process, right there at the end, that was better than it's been.
100%. That's exactly what I was thinking of as we went through it. While we're watching it, we're like, all right, you got two tight ends. You got 2 timeouts in your pocket. Let's see if they utilize them, conserve that. And they did exactly what you want to see them do. Now, you might have not got the points or the execution that you wanted to, but as far as making the decision, not hesitating and doing what you're supposed to do, just a simple clock management, you can't have any complaints today about the way they did that. And seeing that growth, again, I'll go back to saying this Cardinals game and next week's Raiders game should be those tune-up games for your offense, where the clock management, hitting your running backs and your tight ends, all these little things that you take for granted, you should be able to fine tune to get on you're not going to get on the same level as your defense because they're so talented, but just to get it to where it's above average and it's not holding your defense back. And then this is a possible Super Bowl team, I think, if you do that. And so I like what they've done in so many ways. We'll continue to hammer through it, but as a total picture, I like what this week set up, and I just want to see a replica of this week next week before they head off to the West Coast against and going back to Cali.
Hey, I know it won't be said, but this has got to be where we give Danico his flowers, right? Like, he's been trying to do this. He's been trying to do this at the end of the first half, and we've been quick to go, Danico's not getting it done, and he should have did this, and he should. Today, I think he was really good with it. I think he took the timeouts when he needed to preserve the time, to be able to get the 3 points. Everything went the way it was supposed to. Good job, Danico Ryans.
Yeah, 100%.
Nick Caley's also involved in that, I'm sure. And just, again, all the way through, Stroud, Caley, Danico. We always like to single out guys. It's usually groupthink there at the end of the
top.
The Texans scored more points in the first half than they scored in 8 total games this year. No first half punts by the Texans, only 1 first half punt for the game. So, you can't say enough about what this offense did today. First Cardinals possession of the second half looks a little scary. Cards drive down the field, but Tom, not only does Chavarria give us the end zone interception, but we get the backflip too. Is this a new deal for Chavarria? Has he done this before?
I haven't seen it. I can appreciate it. That's that athleticism that I don't have. If I had it, I would do it. Absolutely. We love the pick. I don't know what defenses are. I don't know what offensive coordinators are going to do. They've been going and saying, look, we're not going to mess with Derek Stingley. And rightly so. We're not going to do it. It's just not good for business. We're not going to do it. We're just going to go at Kamari Lassiter. Well, quietly, Kamari's now up to 4 interceptions. Like, maybe we can't go there either. So they're just becoming two of the best corners in the league. And this defense just looks so difficult to try to break down.
Jawhar Jordan, it's time to announce that you are here. 47-yard run on the next possession on the pitch. There's two things I remember about Jordan, Jayson. When I talked to one of our experts on the Bleav Network when the Texans drafted him. Number one, he was known as a zone runner. So a pitch outside is how you get the most out of him. You saw it in the game. You saw it in that play. I think that's how you use this guy. Number two, legit 4.4 speed. An injury before the combine hurt his 40. And the people at Louisville said it dropped the stock, but they said that is not as fast as he goes in the combine. He's much faster than we saw.
Yeah, evaluating those running backs in that draft. Yeah, I got to that fifth round of guys that I wanted to see that I'm saying if I'm drafting for the Houston Texans, these are the guys I'm looking at. Anybody past the fifth round in my evaluation. I know Jordan went in the sixth round, but I had a fifth round grade on him. Cody Schrader, who they just released, and I hope they bring him back to the practice squad, I had a fifth round grade. Those were the last two guys in that draft class that I said, hey, if you're trying to get a running back that can actually contribute in the rotation in the NFL, as Jawhar Jordan and Cody Schrader was the end of that list. And so this didn't surprise me. And I also looked at his film, and what jumped out, because this isn't a monster Hulk type dude, but he was willing to at Louisville to stick his nose in there and do blitz pickup. And I expected that to carry over to the NFL game. And people weren't talking about during the broadcast and all that. So I put a play out afterwards on Twitter or X or whatever, where he just put his nose in there, picks it up just like he's back in college. So he's a guy that can help you out in the running game, the passing game, and also blitz pickup. He's not a liability as well. He's got so much value. I don't know why it took this long for him to finally get that promotion. I was glad to see it. And on that 50-yard run you were talking about, kudos. If you go back and look at that play, Ed Ingram, 10 yards downfield, sealing up a lane. Trent Brown, 5 yards downfield. Jaden Higgins fighting through a block, then reattaching about 7-8 yards between Ingram and Brown. On the inside of that, to give you that tunnel, is Jake Andrews, about 5 to 10 yards downfield. Nico Collins, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards downfield, staying in front of his man to maximize that run and putting his hands up when it could have turned into a block in the back, being smart. And then kudos back to QB1. When Jawhar Jordan hits the ground after a 50-yard run, before his butt hits the ground, C.J. Stroud's in the picture. He ran 50 yards downfield to celebrate because he knew what that meant, not only for the team, but to that rookie that I call him a rookie because he didn't play last year, getting injured his rookie year, getting his first regular season game action and having the biggest run of the season. Before that 50-yard run of the season, you know who had the longest run? C.J. Stroud for 30 yards had the longest run this season. And Jawhar Jordan goes out there and in his first 7 carries, busts off the season 50 yards, had almost a 20-yard reception, picked up the blitz, had key runs late to eat clock. I don't think you could ask more for a 6th-round pick in his first action after having to sit on the sideline for a whole year and a half.
Yeah, Nico was just begging that guy to face him because if the guy faced him, Nico was going to knock him down, and Jawhar Jordan would have had a touchdown on that run. That was all it took for those last few yards from Jordan. I also want to point out, Stroud said, this is my guy. I love him. You know, he talked him up in the post game. For those also wondering about Woody Marks, how's he doing? The post game, it was stated by D'Amico that he could have gone back in there. Woody said he could have gone back in there. They were just trying to play it safe, and Jordan was playing so well, they didn't need to bring back Woody Marks.
Another applaud for D'Amico there, Robert. That's the perfect decision. In this game, you never felt like the Cardinals wanted to get back and push you. To be smart there in a game that you should beat, double their score and win by 20, that's smart not to risk his injury and give him another extra half of rest.
Tom, a lot of jokes running on social media with Woody Marks going out into the blue tent. They say that he's catching the over now every game on the blue. It's just become a regular thing.
It is. And it's funny because I was talking to my dad during the game and, I'm like, look, he's going to go into this tent. He's going to come out and he's going to go score a touchdown. Sure enough, that's
Nice.
exactly what happened, because that's
Nice.
what he's done for the last month. He's had some sort of nick, some sort of something, and then he just came out and performed. Now, I'm really interested going into this next week if maybe they give him a week. Maybe we can see Jawhar Jordan be the dude. I think that there's a very real scenario where this could be your 1 and 2 going forward. Jawhar Jordan is getting an audition. You can really see what is there. If it's something he can repeat, you're giving Woody some time. We clearly know what Woody brings to the table, and you don't feel like the Raiders are a big threat. I don't know if you're going to get into the spread, but I hear it's really big. So I really feel like this would be the perfect opportunity for the team to go, look, Woody, you've done really well. You've carried us. We're going to give the youngster, the opportunity this week and give you a chance to get healed up.
No question. That's a great idea. It's no question, because the Raiders, it was ugly today. I mean,
let me ask you, Robert, let me ask you and Tom something before you move on. Is Jawhar Jordan safe on the practice squad? This was just a standard elevation. Is he safe on the practice squad, or is somebody going to steal him? Now, obviously, he would have to agree to go, but do you risk that, or do you make moves to where you give him that promotion to the 53? Two parts to that. If you do give him the 53, I love what Tom's saying when you give Woody Marks another rest there in the Raiders week. Do you bring back Cody Schrader to the practice squad and promote him to where you've got Jordan, Schrader, and Dare, and see what you got in those guys in a game you should handle quite easily?
Please give me my Missouri Tiger, Cody Schrader, on the roster for a game. That would be fun. Love that kid. I mean, we talked about it midweek, previewing this game. Just a hell of a story. Go listen to a little bit about his story. I talked about it with Jacob. Good stuff there. After he has the big run, Jawhar Jordan, Blake Fisher likes to throw ice water on a party, so he has the offsides on a well-run Stover sneak that everybody hated a couple of weeks ago, but it was run perfectly, and it works. I mean, they had those 2 plays against the Colts. It didn't quite work. Tom's raising his hand because he just didn't like it the second time, right? It was the second one you didn't like?
It's the Stover stuff. That's all I'm correcting.
I love it.
It's the Stover stuff. That's what I'm calling it. That's what I need everybody to call it. That is what that is. I think it's a great play. I think it's smart to do it that way. You protect your quarterback. Cade's, what they call him, Farmer Gronkowski or something like that. It's a big dude. Give him the rock. If he's okay taking it, I think he'll get you 1 yard.
He's going to bring back FarmersOnly.com.
Farmer Gronk is his nickname, and that goes back to Ohio State. So he came in with that one. Ogunbowale, who had a huge day, makes a tough 3rd down catch. Okay, this is the 3rd time I've mentioned him in a positive way. I'm going to have to give him a nice hand clap there. Hopefully that didn't sound too much like a golf clap, but no, he was really good. Then Stroud, nice scramble, touchdown to Schultz. And can't say enough, Tom, about CJ's process in this game and the progress this season. Like we're seeing it in real time, week to week. We talked a little bit about it before, but it just kept happening the entire game where you go, wait a second, he's getting rid of the ball. He's picking the right guy to go to. He's getting rid of it early when he should. It seems like when his foot hits that back part of the drop, he's ready to go and he wants to get rid of the football.
Something I saw on Twitter, and I hate it, and there was a lot of stuff I hated on Twitter. There were people that were saying that the defense wasn't playing well because Arizona was scoring points, and I'm just like, that's just so dumb. It's so bad. But one thing I didn't like is that a lot of people are trying to get CJ back to rookie CJ, right? Like, oh, no, look, he looks like rookie CJ. And I'm like, it's such a terrible take. And the reason I say that is because there's been so many things that this guy's had to endure in the last 2 years where, different offensive coordinators, different offensive lines, different offensive line coaches. And it's like none of it's ever been crisp. And I really think in his rookie year, he had the benefit of a lot of good fortune with that rookie year, with his offensive line and play calling such and this and that and the other. And now you see CJ, exactly what you said, Robert. You can see there's been a slow incline where, okay, now we're not taking these sacks. Now I'm trusting the pocket. Now I'm stepping in the hoop up as opposed to stepping out and causing those sacks that Jayson talked about. And it's like all of these things are slowly cleaning themselves up because he believes in the process. It's one thing to say, yeah, I'm going to sit in here and do it. It's another thing to trust it with your soul after getting your head rocked and getting a concussion. So now we're starting to see him making these plays where it's like, wow, CJ's being really smart with the football. Wow, CJ's moving around in the pocket aggressively to make plays. And I think this is something that was always going to happen. And people are real quick to, what have you done for me lately? And I think if people were going to be patient, you were going to eventually get CJ Stroud the way we have him now. And I think the offense is going to thrive because of it.
The progression that we're seeing this year is not what we saw last year. And yeah, you could go ahead and say, give it up for CJ Stroud. But I still see Texans fans in my replies, in the comments on YouTube, on X. I still see them, let's get rid of Caley. I'm done. I needed to see the season play out because after game 3, I thought he was terrible. But then I saw some progress after game 3, and I saw some things happening. And then unfortunately, we ran into the concussion, Jayson, and I felt like we didn't get a real idea of where it was going. Now we're starting to get it. We're starting to see CJ Stroud do that progression again once he's been back and he's gotten comfortable. And remember, the last 2 games were against the Chiefs and the Colts, 2 of the best coaches, 2 of the better teams and prep work and stuff like that. You see it against the Cardinals even more so when you see it against a team. They're like, oh, this is not a team that we were talking about Super Bowl 5 weeks ago. And of course, the Colts would be in the conversation if they hadn't had the injuries.
Yeah. So with you talked about the growth throughout the season here. When we talk about earlier this season, they had a hole in their line, almost like a hole in the boat. You know what I mean? You might have a great boat. 80% of your boat might look beautiful, but if 20%'s got a hole in it, that boat ain't going to get you where you need to go. And that's what this Texans offensive line was. They plugged that hole with the shift of Titus Howard from right tackle to left guard. They plugged that hole. And so now plays can develop longer. Protection can hold up longer to allow those plays to develop. And Stroud, the interior of that offensive line, he doesn't have a place like you might have O-line issues that you can survive if you're getting beat around the hoop and you have to step up. You might have O-line issues you can survive if you're getting beat on the interior, but you're protected on the edges, can bail out. You can't get beat by both. And that's what was happening with the Texans, to where he's getting beat around the outside of the hoop, and so he can't drop back, and then the interior is gone. There's nowhere to step up, and it's like, why CJ not throwing the ball? He's just had so many issues. So to y'all's point, he's had to be able to build trust in that offensive line. Now he knows that he has that. But that being said, let's pump the brakes a little bit and realize it was just last week against the Chiefs when that offensive line was still getting abused by Chris Jones and the different blitzes they can throw at you. So Stroud has to do a lot of stuff on his own. But in a game like this, all season long, you put him in a game like this, where he can step up in the pocket and only a few times have to bail to keep a play alive. He can win from in the pocket. He can win from outside the pocket. And he can give you stat lines, what we saw today. So I don't think anybody should be surprised.
We don't know what happened with the blitzes against the Chiefs, how much of that was Caley, how much was Stroud not seeing what was going on and maybe adjusting in his own way. But the fact was he didn't turn the ball over. He kept his calm in those situations. That was a huge key against the Chiefs. Mahomes did turn the ball over against the Texans in that game. So you have that as well. Outside of Kamari's pick, the Texans offense, man, it was a little rough in the second half. Definitely a bad third quarter. They rolled down the field again. Trey McBride gets his second touchdown, 10th catch for 117 yards. It was sort of like Texans versus Trey McBride. Basically, he was the Cardinals offense. The Texans D, second half just wasn't good, but Jalen Noel had an immediate response, and the special teams that Jayson talked about earlier, the kick return to the 26-yard line was beautiful. Jalen Noel had a fantastic game, a couple of big kickoff returns. The drive stalls in the red zone again after Schultz grabs another first down catch. I guess, though, you can still score a lot of points, Tom, if you never punt the ball. Think about that for a second. You don't punt the ball, even if you're getting in the red zone and not scoring touchdowns, you still put up points. It's pretty easy to rack up 40 points.
Yeah, I mean, this is a recipe for success. I really feel like as much as people want to be critical of the red zone, as much as people want to be critical of different aspects of this offense, I think that if they're going to go give you production, 20, 30 points, you're going to win those games. The Texans defense is so otherworldly. I feel like 20 points is the best you're going to do against this Texans team. And I think that's with them actually playing. If anybody feels like they didn't let their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half because of the score, well, you just haven't been watching football. That's going to happen. You know, anytime you get up by a certain point, you expect the other team to kind of lay it down. Trey McBride, he's went over 100 receptions the last 2 years in a row for a tight end. He's the best tight end in football. They made a clear, conscious effort to get him the ball. What I would tell you is that Wilson, the wide receiver, that guy had been torching everyone, and the Texans said, nah, you get nothing. So for me, I think like they picked their battles. They did just enough. I think they ratcheted up when they had to. You know, it's a game where you don't want to get anybody injured. I don't know if you watched some of the other games. A lot of injuries today. It's the end of the season. You're trying to protect some guys. And you just want to make sure you get the win and stress-free. I think they accomplished that.
Big name injuries.
Cards walked the Texans D down the field for the third straight second half possession. Brissett, second touchdown pass. Derek Barnett not helping things. Low IQ personal foul. Not the first time we've seen a low IQ Derek Barnett flag this season. Come on, Derek. Let's brighten it up a little bit. Texans' next possession ends when Stroud's third down throw deflected at the line. The Texans' first punt was with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Their first punt of the game. Outstanding Townsend shot inside the 5-yard line. Special teams does a great job again putting it down there. And Jayson, just, got to say it again. I mean, this is maybe the best special teams all around game that we've seen this year.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent point. I'm glad we're spotlighting that because, I mean, you've hit everything on it, Robert. Excellent job today. I mean, from Tommy Townsend, put it inside the 5-yard line. A lot of people would overlook that. But to me, it's like, man, they keep making sure this stays as an A+. The Tommy Townsend inside of 5, Jaylen Noel, multiple kickoff and nice punt returns as well. And it wasn't just the results from those returns. It was what he was doing in them. Throughout the season, you'll see him look to run parallel so often and eat up grounds and precious seconds when he needs to be getting upfield or bending it more at a 45 than a 90 at least. And he did that excellently today. Damone Clark, 4 tackles I spotted myself on rewatch on special teams. Jake Hansen, 2 tackles on special teams I spotted by myself. Christian Harris, big tackle on special teams. I mean, everybody showed up in every phase of the special teams, and the way they played, it wasn't just, again, back to the Jaylen Noel returns. Go back and look at the blocking on that. That is executed like Frank Ross would draw it up and how you would want it blocked. And Jaylen Noel did his job right, but so did those other 10 guys on that unit. So I'm glad we're spotlighting the special teams because I was blown away and said this was an A+ game for them, one that Frank Ross needed after a couple down games this year. And I think as we keep saying, tune-up game, fine-tune everything before you get to those playoffs. You've done everything to get back in this hunt with the Cardinals and Raiders before that Chargers game. Use these 2 games to fine-tune, and I think special teams definitely did that.
Yeah, Tony points out that Barnett shouldn't have been blamed. The tight end went low on the attempted block and went after his knees.
It's a cut block.
The broadcast pointed out is a totally good block. In fact, Texans used to do those blocks all the time.
He did it on Will Anderson Jr. in the game. He did it. I mean, if Will Anderson Jr. is not going to come up like grabbing you by the face mask and chunking you, I don't think Derek Barnett should.
Yeah, Gibbs, the old offensive line coach for the Texans, used to coach that. And the Texans' offensive line was pretty darn good back in the day. Other teams didn't like it. You don't like it. But as long as they're going to make it a fair rule, just like the tush push, hey, you do it. You use what they give you until they don't allow it anymore. After that, the Cards go 3 and out after that great punt. Nice Petrie coverage on third down. Then the juggernaut Texans offense puts it on ice, baby, with the touchdown drive. Nico grabs the second and third catch of the game, finishes it with a touchdown. But Jawhar Jordan, again, the punctuation for this kid, 25 of his 101 rushing yards in this drive, 117 yards combined. Jordan is the first Texans running back this year with a 100-yard rushing game. This is an honor. We'll call it the Joe Mixon honorary award for player of the game for this one, Tom. This was just a beautiful game by Jawhar Jordan, and the kid was showered afterwards by everybody involved with the Texans.
He's definitely loved in the locker room. I think he did a phenomenal job, but I do not want to undersell or not mention how great the offensive line did. He had monster holes. And you know, I really felt like going into this game, this was going to be what Woody Marks was going to do. And I think had he not got injured, 100% Woody Marks has a similar game. But credit to Jawhar, 100%. I'm not taking anything away from him. I would like to spotlight. They opened up some great lanes for him to run in. I mean, there was a couple plays where he was 5, 6, 7 yards before anybody touched him. And, you know, for us that we've constantly been critical about this offensive line, they absolutely blocked everything the way they were supposed to with respect to the running game today.
Our friends at FanDuel now have the Texans as a 14-1 shot to win the Super Bowl. The AFC teams ahead of them. The Bills at plus 850, the Broncos at plus 1,000, the Patriots at plus 1,300. So the Patriots just a hair better odds than the Texans. How are you feeling about that, Jayson? And I said last week they were worth the flyer at 15-1 because you look at this AFC picture and it's just there's not much there. I mean, 3 teams ahead of them in the AFC, and frankly, I'm a little surprised that the Patriots are there because, I mean, they just don't have the experience that the Texans have when it comes to playoff situations.
I haven't been big as blown away by Bo Nix and Drake May as everybody else has been this year. I mean, Drake May was getting MVP talk over the last couple of weeks, which is insane to me when you look at the schedule they play. I mean, it's a results-driven business. I understand you've got the long winning streak, all that, but watching the tape today, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I was watching the Texans back at the same time. I've got those games on. But, man, I saw some throws Bo Nix made today in key situations and different things. I'm like, hey, man, with that defense, if he can be that guy in the playoffs, but that's the key. That's the key there. The playoffs are a completely different game. And if the playoffs were the 7 teams are currently sitting at now, I'm taking the Bills number 1 because I think the playoffs are a quarterback-driven division. I mean, go back and look and see who plays in the Super Bowl every year. So you do have to have a great team, but I think the quarterback pushes you over the top. Nobody out of these 7 quarterbacks left have more playoff experience than Josh Allen's. Aaron Rodgers, I know he's technically in the playoffs right now. He's gone once since 2021, and he's 2-3 in the playoffs since 2018. He's not the same guy. So looking at the rest of them, take Josh Allen out. He's obviously number 1 in my opinion. I'm taking C.J. Stroud with 4 games experience over Bo Nix, over Drake May, over Trevor Lawrence, and over Justin Herbert. Those 4 guys have 5 playoff games combined. C.J. Stroud, who's only played through 2 years, and this is his 3rd year, has only played 4 games, and he's got more wins than those 4 guys combined. I think that plays a big him having that experience and having this defense behind him more than Bo Nix having that defense and only having 1 game of experience that was a loss in which you didn't play well.
Couldn't agree more. Go ahead.
I want to ask you this because the Texans are 14.5-point favorites against the Raiders next week, 14.5, according to FanDuel. Do you play Derek Stingley? He went out with an oblique injury. It might be time to just put him on ice for a couple of weeks. What do you think? Because those oblique injuries, they're like you're gone for like a month or more in the NBA. Look at Tari Eason and some of the Magic players.
It's really difficult because as much as we want to go sit everybody, you still got to go win that game. And if you saw around the league, there's teams playing for pride out there. The Saints had no business beating Carolina today. None. They have nothing to play for. At home, they went toe-to-toe with Carolina, beat them at a game-winning field goal. So you have to respect everybody. There's no team. Tennessee was in the game with San Francisco today. They're fighting for the number 1 overall pick, and they were trying to play with San Francisco all day long. San Francisco kept them at arm's length, but these are teams that are like playing for their coach's job, I feel. And I don't know if Pete Carroll's long for that job, but I don't want to find out that they decide to show up and play and the Texans sat everybody. And now we're talking about how, Tremont Smith got cooked on that side because he's playing for now. If they get up, absolutely. I think what the Texans did today with Woody Marks, where got to a point, sat him down, I thought that was perfect. And if that oblique thing is more than that, then yeah, maybe you have to do it. But I really want to see them make sure they get these wins. I was going to say I totally agree with Jayson, what he was talking about with respect to the other teams. New England got out to a 21-point lead on Buffalo in their building, and Buffalo walked it all the way back. So as much as you want to hype up, and at the end of the first half, everybody this is a Super Bowl contender. This is legit. And you had all the talking heads talking about it. And by the end of the game, they were crickets. Then nobody, it was like, Josh Allen. And I'm like, he wasn't that way in Houston, but that's just tough, right? So I think that the Texans are at a great spot. You look at all these teams. Trevor Lawrence threw for 6 touchdowns today. I do not fear Trevor Lawrence. And we talk about all the other guys, and Jayson outlined it pretty well. I mean, CJ Stroud's got the experience, and I definitely believe he's got the defense. So.
What do you think, Jayson? What do you do here? And don't forget also, you got Mario Edwards and Sheldon Rankins who got banged up. I don't know how bad that was. I haven't heard much about it, but they're running out of defensive tackles too.
Well, yeah, it's an excellent point you bring up. Like, not only are you running out of those bodies, but this late to the season, you place them on IR to free up a roster spot, then you're not going to have them back for that first week of the playoffs. And so now you got to do this balance where you're like, what guys are we going to carry? What guys can we still promote from the 53 that we don't have that fall off? So I think it's going to be gymnastics this week, seeing what team they put out there, because I think there could be a point to Tom's point. You definitely want to make sure you don't get too cute and cost yourself the game. But to Robert's point, with Derek Stingley Jr. and how valuable he is, you do all this for a championship, and you could still possibly lose a game, and the playoffs going to matter more. So I'd rather get these guys back to 100%. So I don't have the perfect answer for it. I do think I would exercise cautious on your more premier players like a Derek Stingley Jr., like trying to limit his playing time. But that's going to be extremely difficult because what we talked about all year, when you have an early bye week, you've got to go the next 3 months without a break, three to 4 months if we're talking deep into the playoffs, without a break. You don't have another bye. You used it back at the beginning of October. And so now there's no break for you, while other people, like the Carolina Panthers you were just talking about, they had a bye last week in week 14, where you had a bye like in week 6, I think it was. And so to go that much long, it is a competitive disadvantage for you once you get this late in the season. So now if Sheldon Rankins, it depends, is he even able to play? Mario Edwards, is he even able to play? And if he is, now you're down. If they're not, now you're down to Tommy Togiai and Naquan Jones, who you just claimed off a waiver from the Chargers last week. You've got to have a 4-man rotation there. Danico Autry, to your point, Robert, you mentioned earlier, can kick inside on pass rushing downs and play D tackle position, but you're getting real thin there. Is Foley close to coming back? Is Kurt Hinish close to coming back? We haven't heard anything mentioned to him. And if they were, they might have not went out and claimed Naquan Jones. So it makes me feel like they're probably not. So it's going to be it's going to be some exercise with that 53-man roster.
Do either of you know how many designated for IRs that they have left? Because they just used 2 this week with Harrison Bryant that we mentioned. I think there was one other one. I'm blanking on it, but you only get so many, right? At designated IRs before you're out of them for the year.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where they're at now. That's an excellent point. I should have looked into that. I don't know exactly what it is. Tom might right off the top of the head, but I'm not sure right now. But that being a point, it did make me question why you're bringing Justin Watson back. I know they haven't activated him yet. They activated that window for 21 days. They could still shut that down if I'm not mistaken. But uh, I don't think, if you get down to Watson, you know what I mean, over how thin you are at some other position, that's a little puzzling to me.
Any final thoughts, guys? Anything you want to throw out there, big picture, or anything that we might have missed in the game?
For
Tom,
me, I really feel like, they did what they had to do. I think they anybody that thought that was, could they have scored more than 40 points? Absolutely. Could they have held them to less than 20 points? Absolutely. I think the Texans played the okay, we're going to do just enough. We're going to on defense, on offense, and I think that's what they need to do. I think that's partially keeping guys healthy. I think the reason Nico Collins didn't have a ton of receptions is because they were also being careful with Nico Collins. You saw him come on the field a lot when normally he runs. I don't know the routes he ran, or I don't know how many snaps he was in, but I think it's going to be down versus what he's normally doing. I think D'Amico and his guys are doing a really good job right now of trying to manage exactly what Jayson talked about. It's the dog days of the season. It's the end. We're trying to keep guys healthy. You're seeing people with soft tissue issues left and right, quarterbacks, ends, linebackers, all of them. And if you want to go look it up, the names are out there. They're big time. So for the Texans, health is going to be paramount. As much as they did to get in this position, if they suffer injuries now, it will not matter.
Throw in the fact, Jayson, that we just found out this week that the Texans are now going to play Saturday after this Raiders game. So they're going to have a short week to prepare. So I just think you're going to have to take your chances and rest some guys, because you don't want to have guys that are banged up and try to do short weeks with them. Either that, or you play them this week and you give them that next week, but the next week is the Chargers. So that's, to me, much tougher game.
Yeah. It's an excellent point, Robert. And you got a guy over your left shoulder. I think he said he could come back and play about 10 to 20 snaps, Robert. And you need somebody.
I'll take him.
The Texans have 3 spots remaining.
Okay,
nice. 3 spots remaining.
Okay, so they're not in too bad of a situation.
Plus 2 more in the postseason.
Oh, you get 2 in the postseason. Okay, that's good. That'll be 1 for Tank Dell. And
he's acting like he's going to do it.
He might be just getting bored, just firing off them tweets like, let me just throw this out there to toy with some people.
The crazy one's going to be Mixon. If they activate him, what does that do? It would be absolutely chaos. I don't know.
It would be the best if the NFL didn't have to announce people coming back. Obviously, I prefer them announcing, but just in this regard, if the Texans are getting ready to come out the tunnel before they announce their active roster for that game day, and then about that time the NWO music comes out, and then Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, and J.J. Watt come out in NWO shirts, and then they're active for the game. We'll never see that NFL, but maybe the XFL. Maybe the XFL will come back and do it.
One other thing real quick. So the 3 spots does not include Justin Watson. Justin Watson, they opened his 21-day window, but It's once they activate him, that'll count towards it. So if they activate Justin Watson, they'll only have 2 spots remaining.
And that's what I was saying. I'm not sure they activate him, because how deep down do you have, especially to your point, if Tank Dell, there's even a possibility he's coming back. What are you going to do? You're going to carry Nico, Hutch, Noel, Kirk, Higgins, and then you're going to carry Watson, and then you're going to bring back Watson and Dell. And I don't know where Dell's at in the process, but if that's even a possibility, I have no issue. Open that 21-day practice window, let him get those reps, see where he's at. And then if you have somebody go down in the next 21 days, then maybe at that point you look at activating them. If he doesn't go down, I'm like, just sit right there, little buddy. You got the best seats in the house, and if they get a ring, you get one too.
And I'll point this out, that the Tank Dell silence would have been, or the Tank Dell coming back would have been a lot less silenced, or a lot more silenced, whatever I'm trying to say here. But no Jalen Noel catches today, no Christian Kirk catches today. And Tank Dell, I get a feeling he would have caught a couple of passes in a game like this, but who knows? So yeah, I think Tank Dell might be in play again. I mean, it's just you never know with what's going on with the Texans. And of course, injuries. I mean, it seems like this time of year, guys get banged up, more guys get hurt. So we'll see what happens with all that. A couple of things before we close things out. Number one, I will have a Raiders preview with a Raiders insider, part of the Bleav Network later this week. Have a Rockets analyst this week for you Rockets junkies. Got a good one of my favorite Rockets analysts is going to be on with me talking about what's going on with them. Also want to point out something that I just saw the news. Brandon pointed out to me, and I was checking the news wire, and just sounds like really incredibly sad news. Rob Reiner and his wife appear to have been murdered in Brentwood, California. Brentwood is actually the same neighborhood that
OJ,
my best friend RG is. And of course, everybody knows it from OJ, but my best friend RG lives in that neighborhood. And RG was my original co-host for this show. We go back to high school together. That's where he lived. But I bring the Rob Reiner thing up. So just a few years ago, his son Jake was a reporter here in Houston at Channel 2. And Jake was sitting on the couch next to me, the same couch that I'm sitting on right now. And we did an hour interview, and I talked about his dad in the interview and his dad taking him on a trip to see all the ballparks in the country, baseball parks, when he was a kid, when he was 12 years old. Go back and you can find that interview with Jake if you're interested. But it was a real fun interview about, his story and his families and all that. And I know Jake is, incredibly close to his dad and incredible family. Everybody knows about Carl, the grandfather, as well. Carl, who helped create the Dick Van Dyke Show. Dick Van Dyke celebrated his 100th birthday this weekend. But, Rob Reiner is just a tremendous, he means a tremendous amount in my life. 3 of my all-time favorite movies: When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, Stand By Me. The list of movies that he directed are just fantastic. Of course, Rob starred in All in the Family, just a groundbreaking sitcom. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because, Jake was so good. He came over. I asked him if he could do the interview. He said, sure. I asked him, could he come over and we could do it in person? He did it. We talked for an hour, had a blast talking with him, talked about his dad back in his days when he was in the Partridge Family for an episode and stuff. So just real sad news. And it sounds like it was him and his wife were both murdered. His wife, without her, there wouldn't be no happy ending to when Harry Met Sally, because it was not supposed to be a happy ending where they got back together at the end. Spoiler alert, 35 years later, but they get back together at the end. Rob rewrote the movie because during that whole process, he found and fell in love with Michelle, his wife, the wife that he's been with for the last 30 plus years, and Jake's mom as well. So just a real sad story. I wanted to throw that out there because it just connects to our show. And like I said, Jake was really kind to us. Remind everybody as well, Tom and Jayson, just tell everybody about where they can find your stuff on social media, and just let everybody know what you guys are doing. Go ahead, Tom, you can go first.
At Third Coast Tom on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It was Mama called it Twitter. I'm gonna call it Twitter. So that's where you find me there. The Bullpen, that is my other podcast that I do with James Roy. Right now we're transitioning a little bit. We're starting to do like a live on Thursdays as opposed to like a post and a pre. So look for us this coming Thursday. Every Thursday we'll go live and we'll break down the last week's game and preview next week's game, that kind of thing. And just love talking Texans.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jayson Braddock, Jayson with a Y. My works for Dr. Roto, you can catch it out at drroto.com. They also articles for me covering the AFC South. I do about 4 articles a week for them that shows up on MSN or at the big leagues, different areas like that. But most of my takes and film breakdown and just looking at as far as Texans coverage, you can follow it at Jayson Braddock on Twitter.
Great stuff. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the Houston Sports Talk Live Texans postgame show. Really appreciate it. It's presented by FanDuel. Check them out, FanDuel.com and the FanDuel app. Thanks again, Jayson and Tom, for the insight. And the Texans 6 in a row. And maybe, just maybe, we can talk more about the Super Bowl as the next few weeks unravel. So that's kind of fun. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.